Hi everyone, welcome to another vlog. This week we have been keeping cozy again as the temperatures have been between -30 and -40 degrees Celsius. My daughter and I have been talking about how we can't wait to go outside and start gardening and are both feeling pretty ready for some warmer weather. I have also been feeling really inspired and energized to make art and realized that one thing that's really holding me back is my workspace. My office is kind of a catch-all space that ends up wearing a lot of hats. This room gets a lot of traffic, and I have found that it also is sort of a drop zone because I can tuck things away in there and put them up high on the hutch where my daughter can't reach them. I have been feeling ready to properly start making a body of work and thought of a mini collection that I would like to put out in the spring. But I figured that before I start on that, I'd like to get my office to a point where I don't need to clean for half an hour to use the desk. So I put on a Marie Kondo series on Netflix and I set to work. I didn't quite do this the same way that Marie Kondo recommends, but I did try to pull out each item from where it is in the room and make sure that they all spark joy before I decided to keep them. It was actually interesting to me. I didn't think that I was going to end up getting rid of a lot, but there was a lot that ended up getting recycled and quite a few things that I'm going to end up giving away. Most things are still stored in a similar way to how they were before, so the room doesn't look incredibly different, but I'm so glad to have gotten rid of and rehomed a lot of items that were in the hutch and the room in general. The hutch is now almost entirely for everything that I do with wool, which I am loving, and it is so much easier to get at my wool tools. It feels so much less cluttered and makes me so much happier to look at. I didn't change my painting space much, other than to tidy it. I mostly added sketches to the corkboard that I found in the drawers of the desk. I also emptied out the cart beside my easel. I keep thinking that to be utilizing it and using it properly, it should be full, but I honestly really just use the top, and I think that that's okay. I also added a tray on the second shelf with scraps of paper that I can use for swatching instead of having them loose in a drawer. The top of my desk is all cleaned off, but otherwise it's laid out the same. I do think I'm going to get a riser for my monitor so that I can tuck my closed laptop underneath it, and that way get a little more room on the desk. And I'm considering seeing if I can get by without a pen cup. It's really handy having it, but it does add a lot of visual clutter. I did end up taking a bunch of the pencils out though, and just left my Colorase pencils that I love using, my pens that I actually use, and my watercolor brushes. In my desk drawers, I still have a catch-all drawer with sort of extra supplies where I have things that I don't use all the time, as well as painter's tape and blotting cloths for painting. My next drawer is full of all of my electronics, like my scanner, tracing tablet, and flash drives. This isn't super tidy looking, so I might try to see if I can find some little boxes or something to help everything sit better. Next, I have all of my paper that's been torn down so it isn't in a full sheet. It's mostly watercolor paper, and I've recently started writing what kind of paper it is lightly on the back with a pencil so that I know what I'm using when I go to start a painting. The next drawer is actually all of the supplies that I keep for my daughter in this room. I used to just have her crayons and sketch pads kind of kicking around, and it made it so that they always seemed like a messy thing to me because they were just always out. I love that they now have a spot, and so does she. She will now come in here and grab her coloring things on her own before sitting down at the desk. Finally, this is my drawer of things that I use the most. I have this set up the exact same way that it was before, except that before it had things like Copic markers and Posca paint pens. Things that I loved once and saw a lot of value in, so I wanted to keep them on hand. I have finally accepted that I'm not using these things right now and took them out of the desk. Instead, I took the tin of colored pencils that I had buried in a drawer, took all of the pencils out, and now I have them all on hand. It's so much easier than having to dig for a tin, and also I have one less tin in the drawer. I also did this with all of my loose regular pencils and tins of pencils so that they were all on hand. I have a little section here for erasers and a small section for camera batteries because those are things that tend to get lost for me, so I wanted to make sure that they had a designated place. And then in the back here, I just have all of my paints. And that is my finished office cleanup. I hope that you enjoyed going on this journey with me. I hope that if there is a space in your home that isn't working for you, that inspiration can find you in the same way. Have a wonderful week, everyone.